Okay, welcome to this video in which I will explain to you in an authentic and natural way my point of view on a topic from the OFM. Today we're going to talk about what? We're going to talk about pressure, all right? About the pressure and stress that one might feel in the OFM. So there are two scenarios. Sometimes the model is really intense, and so she puts a lot of pressure on us, and we feel quite a bit of stress. And that's where sometimes I even have students who lose their composure a little, or even managers, simply people I see who lose their composure. Or sometimes we also have models who, on the other hand, just don't care. They're a bit, really detached. And naturally, the manager doesn't feel any pressure, no stress. But for me, that's counterproductive and it's not good. And I think you need to have some stress. For example, because very often I see managers when the model isn't fully committed or anything. And actually, very often they have Latina models because they have trouble recruiting, for example. The managers I see quite often. The problem is that, in fact, with Latinas, there's quite a bit of distance, especially when it comes to communication already. And actually, that's why I only work with French women, because communication is 100 times better. But as a result, there isn't much of a connection that gets created. The guys are fed up because obviously they've been working for months and months, they don't have much content, and of course, things aren't moving forward, they're wasting time and losing money. And so they're not necessarily making any money. And that's counterproductive and really bad because you're wasting your time. And actually, it's really simple, but if you waste 3 months with a model who doesn't work, it's pointless. It's better to spend 1 or 2 months recruiting, but then have a real French model who actually works. And then you really an explosion. In fact, things will get so much better. And that's why, once again, I only work with French women. It's honestly 100 times better in terms of communication and also in terms of work quality. Everything is much higher quality. And for example, I have students who told me that the new model was great. She didn't put any pressure on them. But I actually think that's a negative thing. I think you do need a certain amount of pressure, for example. I recently recruited a model, actually. It was the trans model. I even made a video about how I will. So this model, from 0 to 10, €0 a month. What I'm going to do is make a video about it. I've already done the first episode. If you want to check it out, it's on my channel. Actually, with this model, I took her on solo without my business partners. And so in the end, I told myself, go for it. It's a challenge. Plus, it's a niche I've never worked in before, trans. I thought this could be interesting. And also, it's good for the profit margin, obviously. There you go, just to be completely honest. Obviously, we have a bigger margin than when there are 3 of us, and we can move faster. Since I have the knowledge, I have the skills, honestly, it's going to be pretty cool what we're going to do with her. We've already made a good start, and she's super happy. And actually, the thing is, this model is really motivated. She's all in. She really puts in the work. She's the model who works the most out of all my models, and I don't have just one. So it's really pleasant because the content is super high quality. And above all, it's produced very quickly, and most importantly, she listens to what I say, and that's important. That means, of course, I do have quite a bit of work, because as soon as I onboarded her, within 48 hours, actually, even less, she gave me a script. We've already had one. In fact, I've already received the second one in just a few days. Obviously, it takes time, but I really recommend having a model like this, someone who is motivated, who works hard, who gives their all from the start, and things get off to a good start. Of course, it also means you have to work rather than having a model who doesn't care, because if you don't feel any pressure, you're not really going to have that breakthrough moment. There's a bug. You're not really going to have that breakthrough moment. There's a big bug here. It's a bit scary in Bangkok. So let's avoid pretending like nothing's happening. Anyway, the point is, I think it's super important to have a certain amount of pressure from the model. It's true that it can be stressful, but I think it's a good kind of stress. The kind that gives you a kick in the butt and really makes you move forward. Right? And for me, that's also how you build a good connection. The model is super motivated, she's working like crazy, she sees that you are too, and she obviously sees that there are results. Obviously, once again, you need good strategies. I know that before working with me, the model was getting about 600 views on her reels. Now, those reels are honestly getting between 3, 0, and 7, 0 or 8, 0 views. We even have a video that got 70, 0 views. Honestly, there's no secret. You need good content and a good model. And really, it's not complicated. It's not complicated. Obviously, if you're hustling, you have to be pretty responsive. And that's part of it too. The whole point is you have to be super responsive. I see too many managers who waste their time, who are still stuck in their day jobs. So of course they don't have that drive to really push themselves because they have that safety net. And I think that's really bad. And it's not great because sometimes obviously you can't necessarily quit your job. But I think that a lot of people actually don't realize how important it is. Those few hours they have in the evening are exactly what will make the difference and allow them to leave that job. And personally, what I did at the beginning, so yeah, it's a pain. It takes time. It's a lot of work, but that's really how you give it your all. And that's it. For example, there are a lot of managers I know who don't actually make the effort to create good content. They don't put in the effort, for instance, with editing it simple, but there are many who have Latinas. In fact, they just ask them for random videos and post them, but in the end, it doesn't get any views, they don't make any money. What you need to do is the opposite. You really have to work on the content as much as possible with the model. I know that when you're starting out, you think, yeah, it's just a video, who cares, whatever. But no, every detail matters if you really want to get the best stats. Today, if I have the results I do on Instagram, it's because I constantly push the models. Every time they send us content, I tell them, hey, next time improve this, improve that, do this, do that. At least that way, there's real progress and the results speak for themselves. Nowadays, there are more and more models on the French market. And the ones who really get views, the ones whose content we actually use, they're not even necessarily the most beautiful ones. So that's super important. Let me go back to my example. For instance, a lot of people work with Latinas, but actually they don't make the effort, for example, to improve the content with the model. Sometimes they're even afraid of losing her. Now, that's really the worst thing. When you're afraid of losing a model who isn't even working, it's pointless. Honestly, I mean, there's no reason for it. She's not working. So why would you be afraid of losing her? You really shouldn't be afraid. I mean, there are billions of models out there. Well, billions, there are a lot of them. There are, in any case, hundreds, even thousands in France. So you shouldn't get attached to just one. If she's not working, she's not working. And that's okay. For example, I have a model right now. Recently, maybe she'll even see this video. So she stopped working with us of her own accord. Why? Because we weren't getting the results she was expecting. She wanted to make 20 euros a month right from the start. First of all, that's a bit unrealistic, and it's not at all what I promised when I start working with a model. On top of that, supposedly, she has a phone problem. Someone stole her phone or whatever. But we still see that she's able to post Instagram stories where she's dancing. Well, that's a bit surprising. It means things aren't going so badly after all. And on top of that, we've been waiting for reels from her for 2 weeks. So, in fact, if we don't have reality, we are not magicians either. If the model doesn't have any real news, it's useless. I mean, it's actually shaky to use old reels, for example, if she's already made some in the past. These days, what really works is doing the current trends, and for that, we need good content. And for me, the most important content when launching a model is marketing. So for me, it's the Instagram Reels, since I spend my time on Instagram. So obviously, we don't have the content we want, and obviously, as a result, it doesn't take off. And also, you should know that the reality is we've done some tests. We've tried different types of Reels. We've actually had a few Reels, and there are some formats that just didn't work at all. So after that, you have to experiment. It happens to everyone. We have models, for example, who don't do much, so obviously we stop working with them. But fortunately, we have plenty of other models with whom it works really, really well. Our best one was making 15 net per month, and today she's still with us. And that's super cool, because with this kind of model, we get good content on time, and at least we can really have fun with it and make money. Like I said, we're not magicians. We can't always just make things up either. Same thing, there was a student, there was a Latina who didn't work. What were her only reels, really? It was a photo that he turned into a video because he didn't have any videos. There were effects, some music, some text. It was, not to be mean, but it was terrible, and obviously didn't get any stats. And the worst part is, it's still that student. By the way, if you're watching this video, but honestly, well, I've already told you. But it's sad because in the end, you invest, it's money, you did it. I mean, he did a lot of stuff. He invested heavily. He even boosted as well, all of that. Actually, it's not a solution to just throw ads at a model that doesn't work or at content. If it's terrible, it's never really going to be profitable. What you need to do is boost content. If you want to run ads, why not? But you actually have to do it on content that is really high quality. That way you get more on top of more. It's really great. If you have less, if the content isn't good, if it's bad, then you add more. It's never going to make something. More plus less isn't going to make something. Well, zero is going to be worthless, right? I mean, that's exactly the same thing. How do you avoid procrastination? Well, first, you should follow one person and stick with them. Don't try to follow everyone or listen to what everyone says. There are a lot of people today who lie, who don't have the results they claim to show. There are a huge number of fake dashboards. So it's true that when you haven't been trained directly by someone, you tend to listen a bit to what you hear here and there. And even for me, when I'm networking, I mean really networking, actually talking with guys, managers who are really making money, like between 20 and 30 or even more per month, I realize that, in fact, everyone has their own way of doing things. And what works for you won't necessarily work for me or someone else. And actually, I get the feeling that everything works for everyone. So if you see what I mean, that's actually why you have to experiment and really draw conclusions, obviously in a rational way. For example, if something doesn't work for me, I'm not going to do it. Even if it works for someone else, I'm not going to persist if it doesn't work for me. And that's it. And for example, also try to really focus. I know that a big mistake many people make is that they always want to listen to what everyone is saying here and there, but that doesn't work. You really have to focus. Even when I'm networking, I realize there are guys who make all their money on Twitter, others on Snapchat, others on TikTok, and others on Tinder. In fact, you can't go off in every direction. We're never going to focus. That's why today, as I told you, we're getting great numbers, and in fact, we almost only use Instagram. Honestly, 95% of it is Instagram, because we're starting to really master the platform. And that's the only way you become good in a field, so that afterwards you can really make money and stand out. In fact, you have to become an expert. But in one thing, actually, you can't be an expert in Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, ads, whatever. You just can't. So you really need to learn to focus and to manage procrastination. Really try to get training from someone. If you join a training program, it could be someone else's. It doesn't matter. Again, just be careful. I'll make another video about this too, but get trained by someone who actually shows you their skills and knowledge, not just a lifestyle, okay? Because otherwise, there will be nothing behind it. Unfortunately, that's the reality. So there you have it. And when you are being trained by someone, really try to follow their advice to the letter. I know that I have students who don't follow instructions to the letter because they have their own limiting beliefs, their own mental barriers. And of course, as a result, there are no results to be expected. Afterwards, they come to me and say, I don't understand. But I do understand, because you're not listening to what I'm telling you. Today, I have the results that I have. If you want the same, listen to what I'm telling you and set your limiting beliefs aside. Even for me, throughout my journey to get here, I've been doing OFM for 2 years. There were plenty of times when I questioned myself, when I changed my mind and told myself, okay, so-and-so helped me break through my limiting beliefs. And that's extremely important. It's extremely important because especially when you come from salaried work and have a job, you have a lot of limiting beliefs. But even now, I still have some myself. And that's the thing. The worst part is that I try to spot them and of course avoid making the same mistakes again. And to open my mind to maybe try things I would have thought impossible, which in the end turned out to be possible and even profitable. Anyway, the point is, if you feel stressed, that's completely normal. In fact, use that as fuel to tell yourself, okay, the model, she submitted it. Here, I'm speaking concretely. So this is much less abstract for those who think it's a bit abstract. For example, when the model uploads a script to the drive, don't wait. Don't tell yourself, okay, I'll do it next week or whatever. You stop what you're doing? Well, obviously, no. I mean, if you're doing something unproductive, you stop, yes. But on the other hand, if you're working, of course, you finish your task. That's also super important for being productive. You finish your task and then you say to yourself, okay, she uploaded her script to the drive today. By tomorrow, at the latest, actually, not even, by tonight, really it will be uploaded to Inflow. I've put the entire script step by step. It's organized. We have the prices clearly defined and the sales copy is well prepared for the publisher. So that's it. Everything really needs to be straight to the point and you have to be super efficient. Actually, and similarly, I wanted to talk a little about that too. I see way too many managers who are slow, who don't get moving. The ass, actually. And today, OFM, like any business, to me is the most accessible, but it's also complicated. It's hard to make a living from it. That's the reality. And honestly, you really have to be in the top 1%. And in reality, 99% are going to give up. So we need to try to be better than the other 100. Usually students, same thing, they take my program. So either my course or my coaching. Afterwards, they end up quitting after a while because they don't get results. But honestly, you have to realize that you get nothing for nothing. You have to put in the hard work. And once again, if you're guided by the right person and you don't give up, there's no reason. Why wouldn't it work? It's as simple as that. So really try to give it your all and not just act on a fleeting emotion. Really try not to have a plan B in your life if you truly want to succeed. I see a lot of people telling me, yeah, you're an example, whatever. You're an example, blah, blah. But in the end, actually, they're not fully committed at all. And I can tell right from the start that they are never going to succeed. That they've never succeeded. Why? Because they don't have that drive, they're not determined, they don't have an ultimatum, they're too relaxed, too laid back. They had a bit of money saved up, they put a little into a coaching program. They don't care, so I'm not telling you to drop everything, but in the end, it's all a matter of mindset. Everything starts from there. And unfortunately, that's something I can't change. So at least try to have the right mindset and tell yourself, I have no other solution. I have no other choice. Sure, it might take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, maybe even 2 years. Me today, I'm starting to hit my first month at 30 per month in my agency. But keep in mind, I've been doing OFM for 2 years now. Obviously, honestly, for a year and a half, I wasn't the person I'm telling you to be. In the sense that, like many others, I was too laid back, too relaxed. Too much. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I struggled. I never gave up, and thankfully so, because that's why I'm here today. But still, I also had a lot of limiting beliefs. But today, well, tomorrow. So if I were to start all over again, obviously with the knowledge I have now, I would get these results much, much, much faster. And even if I didn't have the knowledge, actually, but just the vision and the determination that I have today, well, I would be much, much, much further ahead. And it's the same for many others. We hear that, in 3 or 6 months, they get huge results, but either they have the right vision and really worked hard for it and respect to them, or also they are liars. So really be careful. But in any case, it's really important to be truly determined. And when I say truly, it's not just, once again, in the heat of the moment. You really need to have a real reason to want to succeed in OF. And today, for me, it's a challenge. And that's what I love always, challenging myself every day. That's why I took on a new model, alone, with a slightly special niche. Today, things are going well. Obviously, I work a lot more than before, but I also have other businesses, so that's part of the game. But right now, I'm in a phase where I'm working a lot, to scale up even more what I do each month. So there you have it. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, if you like this kind of format, a bit authentic, natural, spontaneous, let me know in the comments. For those who would like to reach 300 a day with OFM, click here, the icon. For the next 90 days, you'll get my program. So you have either the training course or the coaching with training for those who want to go even faster and further, which will be in the description in the first link. And that's it. If you also want more videos on topics related to OFM that I should cover, because there's a lot to talk about, well, don't hesitate. And I'll see you next time.